2 in the afternoon. Cursor blinking, screen full of work that isn't moving. There's a bag of chips, half gone, pushed to the edge of the desk, a 32-ounce energy drink leaving a wet ring on a notepad. The man behind the keyboard has been sitting there since 8 a.m. He's not scrolling, he's not distracted exactly, he's just stuck. Like his brain is trying to run a program it doesn't have the processing power to run. He stares at the screen. The screen doesn't blink back with answers. 6 hours, almost nothing to show for it. Here's something most men don't know. Your brain is roughly 2% of your body weight. It burns through about 20% of your daily energy. Every decision you make, every problem you solve, every creative leap your work requires, it all runs on that 20%. And most men are fueling that 20% with gas station food and liquid sugar, then sitting down and expecting to think at a level that requires premium. That's not a discipline problem. That's a fuel problem. Here's the question worth sitting with. What if the reason you can't focus, can't finish what you start, can't sustain the discipline you keep promising yourself, isn't weakness of character, but weakness of fuel? What if the wall you hit every afternoon isn't who you are, but what you ate? The average American man consumes over 77 grams of added sugar every day, nearly 3 times the recommended limit. And most of it isn't in soda or candy. It's hiding in the granola bar he thinks is healthy. It's in the deli sandwich dressing. It's in the trail mix, the healthy choices he makes without reading the label because they don't taste sweet. This isn't a video about weight loss. It's not about your body. It's about your output, your capacity, the quality of the hours you have to build something with your one life. That's what this is actually about. His name is Nathan Cole, 34, freelance graphic designer, Austin, Texas. He wakes up at 7:15 on a Monday feeling like he's surfacing from the wrong end of a pool. Heavy, slow, mouth dry. He slept 8 hours. He still feels like he didn't. Before his feet hit the floor, his phone is in his hand. He checks 3 apps in the first 2 minutes of consciousness. He's not hungry, he never is in the morning, so he skips breakfast entirely, brews a large coffee with 2 sugars, grabs a granola bar on the way to his desk, and tells himself that's handled. Nathan is good at what he does, genuinely good. Clients come back, he gets referrals without asking, he has a reputation for strong conceptual work and hitting deadlines, and he's earned it. But there's a gap between what he can do and what he actually produces in a given day that he has never been able to close. He'll sit down for a serious work session, something that requires real creative thinking, and within 40 minutes, the concentration starts leaking. He can feel it going. He reaches for his phone, takes a break, opens YouTube for 10 minutes that turns into 45, comes back, tries to get the thread back, loses it again. He finishes most days feeling like he ran a marathon that produced a mile.
His eating, if you looked at it honestly, is not dramatically bad. He doesn't think of himself as someone who eats poorly. He's not hitting fast food every night. He just eats whatever is fastest. Granola bar in the morning, whatever takeout is left in the fridge, or a deli sandwich for lunch. Crackers mid-afternoon, something quick for dinner. It's not trash, it's just convenience stacked on convenience with no system underneath it, no intention behind it, no understanding of what it's actually doing to the machine he's asking to perform. Nathan has tried to fix the focus problem 6 different ways: productivity apps, time blocking, cold showers at 6 a.m. for 2 weeks until it got old, a journaling practice he maintained for 11 days. He's read 4 books on deep work. He has highlights in all of them. He has not cracked the problem. His private conclusion, the one he doesn't say out loud because it's uncomfortable to say out loud, is that he might just be one of those men who can't sustain concentration. That focus is a trait distributed unevenly, like height or musical ability, and he ended up on the shorter side of it. Some men can lock in for 6 hours. He just isn't one of them. He has a business plan sitting on his desktop, has had it there for 2 years. He wants to build a design agency, real staff, real clients, real infrastructure, not just himself and a laptop. Every week he tells himself this is the week he finally digs into it seriously. Every week, by Wednesday, the plan sits untouched. There's a thing that happens at 2 p.m. Nathan knows it's coming but can't stop it. It arrives like weather. One moment he's functional, slow but moving, and then something drops. The heaviness starts behind his eyes. Simple decisions that would have taken him 30 seconds at 10 a.m. now feel like moving furniture. His screen looks the same, but processing it takes more than he has. He reaches for his phone, not because he wants to, but because his brain is desperately seeking something easier to do than the thing he's supposed to be doing. He's been calling this laziness for years. It is not laziness. His girlfriend, Priya, works in biomedical research. She's been watching the 2 p.m. wall happen for 8 months. She mentioned it once, gently, not as a lecture, just a passing observation, that his crashes seemed to happen about 90 minutes after he ate. Nathan nodded, said maybe, and changed the subject. He wasn't ready to hear that the answer to his productivity problem was in his kitchen. That felt like being told the answer to a math problem was a feeling. Then the email arrived. A well-funded tech startup out of San Francisco, full brand identity, logo system, design language, the whole thing. 6 weeks, real budget, the kind of scope that could become the foundation of the agency he's been planning to build. Nathan read the brief 3 times, said yes before he finished the 3rd read. He was energized for 4 days. Then, day 5, Tuesday, serious work begins. He's at his desk at 8, coffee in hand, genuinely locked in. By 11 a.m., he's made good progress. He eats lunch, leftover pasta, bread on the side, a Coke because it's a big project and he's celebrating a little. He goes back to the desk at 12:30.
At 1:47 p.m., he hits the wall so hard he can almost hear it. He's staring at a logo concept that was almost working and now looks like it was drawn by a different, less competent person. He can't see it clearly anymore. He can't make the judgment call that the work requires. He opens YouTube, closes it, opens it again, drinks the rest of a Monster he had in his fridge from last week, eats a bag of trail mix that has more sugar per serving than a bowl of Fruit Loops, gets back to work. At 5:30, he sends a draft he knows isn't good enough. He sits at his desk at 10 p.m. that night, looking at the file he sent, and says, not dramatically, just factually, the way a man says something he's finally ready to stop avoiding. I don't have a time problem. I don't have a motivation problem. Something is actually wrong with how I feel every afternoon, and I've been calling it laziness for years. He goes to Priya. Not defensively, not to be fixed. He just sits down next to her and says, "Tell me what you were actually trying to say about the food thing." She doesn't make a thing of it, she just explains it the way she'd explain anything she understands, plainly, without performance. Every time you eat simple carbohydrates or added sugar, your blood glucose spikes, hard and fast. That spike feels like energy, and for a while it is. But then your body responds. Insulin floods in, glucose drops, and what's left is a brain that was just swimming in fuel and is now running on fumes. The 2 p.m. wall isn't tiredness, it isn't weakness, it's his brain going into conservation mode because the spike ran out and there's nothing steady underneath it. He's been feeding himself like a sports car running on the cheapest gas available, flooring it on the highway and wondering why the engine keeps cutting out. Nathan asks what he's supposed to eat instead. Priya tells him it's less about the specific foods and more about the principle: slow fuel, protein, complex carbohydrates, the kind that release glucose gradually instead of all at once, healthy fats, foods that give the brain a steady, consistent supply instead of a flood followed by a drought. The goal isn't restriction. He doesn't need to become someone who eats differently in every way. He needs to become someone who understands what stable energy actually requires and makes a few consistent choices in that direction. He pushes back, gently, not aggressively, but the way men push back on things that feel soft. Surely his focus problem is bigger than breakfast. Surely this is about mindset, environment, systems. Priya doesn't argue with him. She just says one thing. You wouldn't expect a surgeon to perform well on 4 hours of sleep and call it a discipline problem. Why are you doing that with food? That's the one that lands. Nathan spends 2 hours that night reading, not fitness forums, actual research, studies on blood glucose variability and sustained attention, papers on cognitive performance and nutritional timing. He doesn't need to become an expert, he just needs to see enough to understand that the mechanism is real, documented, and has been running inside his body every day while he blamed himself for his own chemistry. He makes one decision. For the remaining 4 weeks of the project, he eats intentionally. Not on a plan, not with a food scale, just purposefully, as an experiment. He'll change one variable and observe the output. Day 1. Eggs and sautéed vegetables for breakfast. Takes 12 extra minutes. He resents the 12 minutes. He sits down at his desk at 9:07 instead of 8:55. He starts working. By day 4, something is different. Not dramatically different. No sudden clarity, no focus superpower arriving in the night. Just the wall doesn't come. At 2:15, he's still working. The screen still makes sense. The judgment call he needs to make about a color system that's been eluding him for 3 days gets made cleanly in about 4 minutes at 3:30 in the afternoon. He looks at the clock, looks at it again, keeps working. He isn't more motivated. His ambitions haven't changed. His character is exactly what it was. The only difference is that his brain is receiving consistent fuel and is doing what brains do when they have what they need. It's working. The focus Nathan believed was a personality trait he lacked turns out to be a physiological state he'd been chemically preventing every morning before 9 a.m. Over the next 3 weeks, Nathan makes adjustments. Not obsessively. He's not weighing food or tracking macros or eliminating anything entirely. He's just making different default choices. He builds a simple breakfast that takes under 15 minutes. He packs lunch 3 days a week instead of ordering. He replaces the afternoon energy drink with a small meal that has real protein. He eats like a man making performance decisions, not like a man following rules. The project gets delivered on time, above the standard the client expected. They extend the contract. Nathan doesn't make a speech about it. He just notes, privately, that the work he produced in weeks 4 and 5 was better than anything he'd made in the previous 2 years. On a Thursday afternoon, fresh brain, stable energy, no wall on the horizon, he opens the business plan. He reads it straight through. It's good. It was always good. The thinking was there. The strategy was sound. He just never had the consistent cognitive capacity to push it into motion. He starts editing that same afternoon. He doesn't stop until 6:30. Go back to that desk, that screen, that blinking cursor, and that empty energy drink and that afternoon that produced nothing. That's not a picture of a lazy man. That's a picture of a capable man running the wrong fuel through a machine that deserved better. The problem was never him. The problem was what he was feeding, the thing he was asking to perform. Here's the truth. You cannot out-willpower a blood sugar crash. You cannot out-discipline a brain in conservation mode. Discipline is not separate from biology. The man who eats to perform thinks more clearly, sustains longer, and produces more, not because he's more motivated than you, but because his machine is actually running. You can have every system, every habit, every framework in the world, and still spend your best hours staring at a cursor if the fuel underneath all of it is wrong. Eating for performance isn't about aesthetics. It's not about macros or body composition or fitting an image. It's about protecting your best hours. Every time you choose the spike and crash option for the sake of 10 seconds of convenience, you're making a trade. You're borrowing 2 or 3 hours of focused afternoon capacity and spending them on a granola bar. That's the actual exchange. Most men make it 100 times a week without knowing it.
Here's the only thing worth doing today. Not a plan, not a transformation, just this. Eat something with protein within an hour of waking up and remove whatever you're currently drinking in the afternoon that's spiking your blood sugar. Do that for 2 weeks. Treat it as data. Observe what your brain does when it has what it actually needs. Nathan didn't become disciplined, he became fueled. And the discipline that was always available to him, that was always possible, just never given the conditions to exist, finally had a surface to land on. The business plan that sat untouched for 2 years got its first real edit on a Thursday afternoon because he made eggs for breakfast. Your ambitions are not too big. Your fuel might just be too small. Fix the machine first, then watch what it builds. If this reframed something for you, if some part of it named what you've been calling laziness, share it with one man in your life who works hard and keeps wondering why the output doesn't match the effort. Sometimes the answer is this close and this overlooked.